everyone. Welcome back to episode 68 of the Sports Brief Podcast. I'm really excited to get going. It's been a long week. I'm not gonna lie to you. It has been a very long week, but you know what? I'm thankful to be here, and I'm definitely thankful to be surrounded by people that actually want to talk about sports. And Tristan couldn't join us this morning, but that's how it goes. Definitely how it goes. But you know what? We're gonna get into this thing, and it's gonna all start with you guys making sure that we actually leave you guys with a reminder to like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. It helps people find the show. We greatly appreciate it, especially for all the support you guys have given us so far. So, and as we get moving, we're going to talk about a plethora of things, including if the 49ers can make the Super Bowl in the near future, as well as why the Bengals can't miss out on Penny Sewell, a player from the Falcons and Jaguars that I'm personally excited about, how close the Raiders are, and if the Broncos will move on from Drew Lock. I definitely think it's a possibility. Then also I'm going to kind of talk about who, between Baker Mayfield or Lamar Jackson, who really needs a playoff win more. But once again, before we get into all that, make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and comment. It helps people find the show. So, starting with if the Broncos will move on from Drew Lock. I'm a big fan of Drew Lock, that is. Drew Lock, to me, was a guy that I almost felt like he didn't necessarily, his first year, he kind of showed everybody what he was kind of capable of. And as a second year, I swear if the Broncos move on from him in the second year, I'm going to be a little disappointed. Because in the NFL, it used to be about watching guys develop, watching these teams come together and developing quarterbacks and just give them more than 1 year or 2 years. And then the Josh Rosen situation happened, and it's just not great. I think it's a disservice to a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFL, a lot of these young guys that actually have a lot of talent and could definitely do something in the NFL, but they're not given the opportunity. And Drew Lock isn't necessarily one of those guys, but he's a guy that I think has been given his opportunity. He's shown some flashes. He's also shown some growing pains. But for a guy that's dealing with what he's had to deal with this season, especially the way because he had to be benched basically because of COVID. He's missed 3 games this year as 4-9 as a starter this year, but he's dealt with a lot. He's thrown for over 2,900 yards to go along with 16 touchdown passes and 15 interceptions. And I think there's a lot to like about a guy like Drew Lock, especially when you consider the fact he does have a lot of weapons, but at the end of the day, also has 3 rushing touchdowns this year on 160 yards this year. But at the end of the day, Drew Lock deserves more of a shot in my mind. He played basically the entire year without Cortland Sutton, who is easily and far away the Broncos' best wide receiver. And let me also make something abundantly clear here. The Broncos have so much talent. It's seriously almost a crime as to how much talent that the Broncos have. And I mean, when you consider guys, Melvin Gordon and Phil Lindsay, even though the way they planned this out didn't exactly work the way they wanted it to, I think Philip Lindsay should continue to be a force for the Broncos now and in the future. I think he's a great player. Same thing with Melvin Gordon. Noah Fant is such an underrated tight end in my mind. It's a crime. This man deserves a lot more credit than he gets, and I feel like he is just he's almost slept on to a degree, but I think that's going to come to an end. Had 62 catches for 673 yards and 3 scores this year, and then you take into consideration guys like a rookie wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy, who caught 52 passes for 856 yards and 3 touchdowns, and you guys had like Tim Patrick again, who led the team in touchdown catches with 6. KJ Hamler had a good season too. So given what he had, I give a lot of respect to a guy like Drew Lock. I really do. I felt like he, especially coming out of Missouri, he had some questions. I think a lot of people didn't know how he was going to react or how he was going to play. That is, as a starter, 4-1 in the last 5 games for him, though, in his rookie season, and broke some records, did his thing after being a second-round draft pick in last year's draft. And quite honestly, I think he's going to be a great player moving forward. But the question is, will the Broncos move on from him? My gut says no. But there's always a possibility, and with the fact that the Broncos just now hired George Payton from the Vikings, I'm still a little salty about that because he's a tremendous talent evaluator and just has done great things for the Vikings organization. And I think he's going to do those same things for the Broncos moving forward. But the question is, again, will they move on from him? Personally, I don't think so. But this draft, it really depends on how far some of these quarterbacks fall down. I mean, there's just so many good quarterbacks. I mean, Trevor Lawrence clearly isn't going to be there. But I mean, other than that, it's really kind of wide open. Justin Fields probably going to be that number 2 overall pick to the Jets, even though I don't support it. I think that the Jets clearly have enough in terms of quarterback play. I think I still definitely believe in Sam Darnold, but it really depends on what's going to happen. But according to PFF's that is Pro Football Focus latest mock draft, they have Trey Lance falling to the Broncos at number 9. Now, I don't know if that will happen. He's tremendous talent, 6'4", got a rocket arm. Sorry, I've got chapstick on. A 6'4", got a rocket arm, and has looked every bit as great as Carson Wentz in college. Now, I'm really thinking that it's going to come down to, if he does fall that far, will they actually draft him? I don't know. I think George Paton is an astute evaluator, and I think it's really going to come down to what the need he sees, because I think he's still got a lot of stuff to figure out with the Von Miller contract. Definitely some things to figure out in that front office as he gets moving forward and gets settled in as the new Broncos GM, and I think he's going to do a fantastic job. I'm extremely excited for him. I know I'm salty, but I'm extremely excited for what he's going to do in Minnesota, because I think he's going to definitely bring that franchise over the hump and just get him back to dominating, because he brings in quality players. He's done it for the Vikings for years, and I think he's just going to do a lot for that franchise. So there's a lot to figure out, but I don't think he's going to draft him, because I think there's a lot, because of the Broncos. I really don't think Drew Lock has done enough to warrant being doubted yet. Like, yes, there's been some shaky moments, but there's also been some incredibly promising moments with Drew Lock. I mean, I really like this kid. I think he's really going to play well. I really like him. I think he's a quality player. And I think he's going to do really well for the Broncos moving forward. But at the end of the day, it really all comes down to who falls to him. I mean, you consider, like, wins against the Carolina Panthers. This guy played through 4 touchdowns for 280 yards as well. Quarterback rating of 149.5, so a passer rating, that is. But honestly, I just feel like I think he's a good player. I think he deserves a lot of credit. And I think he should be given more of an opportunity before the Broncos try to draft another future quarterback, because I think this draft is very deep and talent-wise, and I think George Paton will recognize that. He might trade down, or he might stick and pick at 9, but I think there's a potential that you could see Drew Lock replaced. But I hope the Broncos either stick and pick at 9 or trade down, get more draft capital, and just start building that roster, because it's too promising, and that they've got to get some guys back. Again, guys like Cortland Sutton, they got to get some guys back. That will come back and play. Even guys like Von Miller, who's even faced some off-field issues and stuff. But I think it's going to be a really fun years ahead for the Denver Broncos organization and fans moving forward. My next thing here is kind of talking about the 49ers. If you want to talk about a team that was so vastly affected by injuries, I think it's clear that the 49ers were the most impacted team when it came to injuries. I mean, you can talk about guys like Nick Bosa, Jimmy Garoppolo. The list goes on. There's so many injuries, I can't even list them all. But this team is not far off, despite the fact of how many injuries it did have. And I definitely think that the 49ers, now they've got some questions to answer, especially with some of their key free agents, guys like Kyle Juszczyk. I think that's how you say it. I hope that's how you say his name. Me and Tristan have always struggled on this. I mean, even guys like Trent Williams, Solomon Thomas, Tevin Coleman, Kendrick Bourne, who was second on the team in receiving yards this year. And even guys, I think Jerick McKinnon should definitely be back. But I think there's a lot to be said for this team that is definitely, quite honestly, it has faced some adversity when injuries have come. So it's tough. As a Vikings fan, I can vouch that it's tough to watch practice squad or even second or third year players come out and try to play, even though it just isn't going. But I definitely think guys like Jerick McKinnon should be back, and they've got a lot of stuff to figure out moving forward. But there's also some very positive things. You got guys like Nick Bosa, who I think is going to come back with a vengeance. I'm going to make a video about that later. And I also think you got guys, like Jimmy G, who can provide something for this team that is, what Kyle Shanahan does very well. He runs the ball very well. His defense has been tough. And I think that's clearly what got him. Let's be honest. It got him 5-6 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl, and then Patrick Mahomes woke up. So, But at the end of the day, I think the 49ers can make it back to the Super Bowl. I think they've got to make some moves here in free agency. I believe they got about $22 million in cap space, so probably enough to sign one major player and then sign their draft class. So, or maybe also restructure some guys. So we'll see what happens there. But they've got a good amount of cap space that I think they might be able to go out and grab some guys. That could make a difference. I think off the top of my head, the corners are pretty good for the most part, even though Richard Sherman could walk. If Richard Sherman is not re-signed, I definitely think that they should go after somebody in free agency. Or there's also some good corners in this draft as well. And I think there's a lot of different things to consider in this draft in terms of talent on secondaries in general. I mean, you talk about Hardarius Washington, the safety out of Washington. There's so many players in this draft that I think could definitely make an impact for especially teams like the 49ers. So I'm definitely excited. But in terms of corners that could come in and make an immediate impact, I mean, Patrick Surtain out of Alabama. But I think there's a lot of, he could probably be gone. Who knows at this draft? This could be really wild, especially with how many quarterbacks there are. So really excited for that one. But I definitely think guys like Patrick Surtain could definitely come in and make an immediate impact. Even though the 49ers do own the 12th pick, I could definitely see them doing a lot of different things. Even though, according to PFF, and I'm pulling up their mock draft here, and I absolutely love PFF, by the way. So they are amazing. If you don't look at Pro Football Focus for everything, what are you doing with your life? Because Pro Football Focus answers every single question that you could ever imagine. So, sorry. So as we head down to me stopping, I'm gonna stop talking about them and just head to PFF's draft here. And the Denver Broncos, they say that out of their 12 spot, they trade it to the Miami Dolphins here. But I still think that there is some good things that could come out of trading, because I mean, this draft is so, like I said, it's so heavy with talent that it's kind of crazy. But I definitely think that there's a lot to be able to watch and be happy about. I think the 49ers have got they've got a lot to be happy for, excuse me. And also, not only do they trade him, but they trade him for Tua Tagovailoa. I forgot to mention that. That's the biggest part of it. But they send the number 12 overall pick for Tua. Personally, I don't know how that will go. I have a lot of faith in a guy like Jimmy G. I don't know. People probably going to remember him for missing that wide open touchdown in the Super Bowl. But, I mean, they put him in a tough spot. I mean, they got away from running the football late in the game, and I think that's kind of what drew them away and eventually led to the loss. But trading for Tua could be definitely a big question. I'm not sure if they'll actually pull it off, but could definitely be a possibility. I'm excited to see what this draft brings, because if they were to indeed grab Tua and maybe have him learn under Jimmy G, or just have him start out right, I think either way you're going to be fine, because I think he played well in his rookie season. Had a very statistically good rookie season. We've touched on it many times here on the show. I definitely think that there's could be some. It could be a good place for him. He got a good defense, a good running game, a good head coach. So yeah, I think him going to the 49ers could definitely be something to watch this year moving forward. So to answer the question of if the 49ers can make the Super Bowl, if they trade for Tua, I think it's a distinct possibility. Even with Jimmy G, I think it's a possibility. But again, they got to go through. I forgot to mention this too. They've got to go through teams like the Green Bay Packers, and there's just even the Seahawks are a quality team too. So there's a lot of teams that they'll have to go through. But if they can get back to running the football and playing defense like they did back in 2019, they could be a very dangerous team. So I definitely think they could definitely make it back to the Super Bowl, but we'll have to see how this thing folds out. The Bengals, by the way, they cannot miss on Penei Sewell. Clearly, Joe Burrow. Clearly. That was a little bit too much emphasis on the clearly. I almost sounded like Michael from The Office when he said, "I will walk." Nobody else? Okay, sorry. I just love The Office so much. But back to what we're talking about. They have to protect Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow had a respectable rookie season, despite the fact he was running for his life for the vast majority of it. But if they want to be taken seriously in terms of protecting their quarterback, they have got to go out and get Penei Sewell. A little bit of a background on Mr. Sewell, former four-star recruit out of Desert Hills High School, originally from St. George, Utah, the class of 2018. Committed to Oregon right away and was a quality contributor for them from day one. Didn't matter. He was immediately going in there and just wrecking people. I watched tape on this kid. And I say kid not disrespectfully because he's younger than me and he's younger than a lot of people, but he's amazing. And it's in terms of endearment because he's so young and he's going to be such a great player. But more on Penei Sewell here. Penei Sewell, if you watch his tape, not only is he just a man when it comes to run blocking, like he not only gets low enough, but he's got man-sized strength at such a young age that he's able to just push people off by himself off the ball. And if you watch any sort of tape or played any kind of football growing up and you saw people who blocked people or shoved people, there was a little light shoves. It's just how football goes. It's just what's a textbook block if it was the term I'm trying to look for. Penei Sewell just doesn't textbook block people. He wrecks them. He pushes them and he blocks them into another dimension. Watch how he tosses players. I mean, I remember, I can't remember off the top. I think it was UCLA from last year or whatever, but I was watching a specific game and the entire game, he's in terms of run blocking, pass blocking, he's athletic enough, got nimble feet. I mean, this guy is the real deal. The Bengals cannot, if they are serious about protecting Joe Burrow, they cannot miss out on Penei Sewell at number 5. If they need to trade up, which I don't think they will off the top of my head because if you look at it, the rest of these teams have respectable offensive lines and the rest of their needs definitely are do not pertain to that offensive line part of it, but they could be tempted to take Penei Sewell with how talented this guy could be. For just how gifted this guy is in terms of his size, in terms of his athleticism, I definitely think he could be something special. I think he could potentially be a Hall of Famer. I mean, you talk about a guy that's 6'5", 350, and he can still move like guys this big. This is such an oversaid statement in the NFL, but it's just so true. It's what gets him to the NFL. Guys this big should not be able to move like this. And quite honestly, that's the case with Penei Sewell. He's a special player already, and he's going to be a special player in the NFL. I potentially think he could be if his potential plays out. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer if he lives up to his hype. That's how special this player is. The Bengals can't miss out on him. Watch his highlight tape because you'll get to see what I mean. You'll see a guy that goes to bat for his teammates every play, but also just a man, tosses people, outruns people. I mean, just a lead blocker for running backs. He is not a guy you want to face as a defensive end or an opposing defender because he's going to wreck you. So that is why the Bengals cannot miss out on a guy like Penei Sewell. As far as one exciting player from both the Falcons and Jaguars, I think there's a lot of different players on both rosters that you could kind of look this out, but this is kind of continuing on with my segment of picking one player from every team by division. I think we started with the NFC and AFC East. Now we're on through the AFC and NFC South. So now we're going to start. We start with the worst teams too in each division. So by record. So that way they have something to be excited about. So the Falcons and Jaguars both have the worst records in their divisions. For the Falcons, I think there's a lot to like from the Falcons in terms of draft class. I think they're gonna have a lot of fun, especially this next year. I think Matt Ryan's gonna get back to doing what he does. Julio Jones is amazing, but as far as a player that actually really impressed me, what about a guy like Mykal Walker? Like, I understand that a guy that's 6'3", 230 playing linebacker, usually that's not 250 is what you're looking for, but this guy can run. Not only that, he can flat out play. Formerly of a 4th-round draft pick out of Fresno State, Mykal Walker was a guy coming out that in a relatively, I would say, deep class. I think that he was a guy that, in terms of the draft, that is, I think he's a guy that a lot of people looked at and said, okay, he's pretty athletic. He can clearly run. He can play too. He's a man. I think he's absolutely a guy that a lot of people who look at him and say that he can cover space. He can also make a tackle in the run game. And that's evident by his PFF grade. I actually just had it up here, so give me a second. Mykal Walker PFF 70.4, I believe, was off the top of my head. I must have closed it on accident. But Mykal Walker, to me, is a player that everybody should be excited about. Excuse me, a 74 PFF grade. Finished with 29 total tackles, 13 were assisted, also forced a fumble. Now, not a very big sample size for a guy that who played well and earned a 74 PFF grade, but It's exciting. It's definitely exciting. Played in all 16 games, started 6 of them. Actually, according to this is what I do like PFF, but sometimes they kind of their tackles are kind of are wrong, or they're just not correct, because on the website of the Falcons it says he has 43 tackles, but on PFF it says he has 29. Oh, plus 13. Okay, I was wrong. Never mind, 42. So I mean, one tackle off, not the end of the world. But back to Mykal Walker here. Honestly, a player that can be very special. You talk about a guy that started in 6 games and played in 16, finished with, once again, 43 tackles, also had a pass broken up, forced a fumble. For a team that needs some stout linebackers that can cover and that could run, Mykal Walker is that guy, and I think that he's going to be something special moving forward for the Falcons. And I think that fans should be. I don't think he's going to be a big pressure guy, but I mean, if you look at him for what he is and what he brings to the team, I think he's going to obviously clearly he can run in space, he can make tackles and fly around for that defense. But if you go back all the way to his Fresno State tape and stats, I mean, you look at a guy, he had a pick 6 his freshman year, played in 14 games, had 86 tackles, 13.5 for loss and 4 sacks, and then his senior year. Had a total of 96 tackles, including 9 for loss and 2.5 sacks. So, in 4 passes defense, a guy that just flies around, makes plays. I don't think he's going to be a huge guy in terms of pass rushing ability. I could be wrong, but I definitely think he's going to fly around, just continue to make plays for that defense, and just provide another element and scariness to the Falcons' defense. As far as the Jaguars go, Laviska Shenault was such an easy pick. It's not even funny. I remember. When Laviska Shenault was coming out of Colorado, some people drew some comparisons or thought he had the athleticism of Cordero Patterson, who, by the way, is one of the greatest kickoff returners of all time. It's not even a debate. I didn't know just looking at his tape. I mean, he was clearly a guy that was very gifted in terms of athleticism, 6'2", 220, very similar to Cordero Patterson in terms of size, speed, strength, all that. But I didn't know he was going to be this good coming out. I mean, if there is any reason for the Jaguars to be optimistic, clearly it's going to be that they're going to get Trevor Lawrence at the number 1 overall pick this year. But also, a guy like Laviska Shenault, such a young guy that is really promising, has a strong career ahead of him. 22 years old, a guy that caught 58 passes for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. A lot to be excited about. Definitely a lot to be excited about. And he made a touchdown grab on the Vikings that looked like it also almost should have been done out of Madden. I don't know, but Laviska Shenault, I think, is not only going to be a big play guy for the Jaguars moving forward, but I think he's going to be a playmaker for many years to come, and I'm really excited to see what he does. I do think at the end of the day, they're going to use him in a lot of different ways. They're going to have him running the football. They're going to have him. I think they should definitely make him return some kicks and find his way there. But I'm definitely excited for Laviska Shenault. I think that he's just in terms of. I think he should immediately be a favorite target for Joe Burrow. Also had, by the way. I think he had 91 yards rushing this year, so clearly they're already using him in a lot of different capacities. But he's an incredible player, and I think he's going to do some great things for the Jaguars moving forward. And guys like Trevor Lawrence should be very excited to have a guy like this on your team. I mean, you talk about a guy that also scored a rushing touchdown and just brings it. Again, 18 carries for 91 yards and just did his thing. Excuse me, I think I was looking at the wrong thing, but doesn't matter. He's an incredible player. I think he's going to bring a lot of athleticism and great things to that franchise. A former 3-star recruit at a DeSoto High School in Texas. Once again, he was 6'1", 205 coming out, now 6'2", 220. Clearly a guy that brought a lot to that Colorado Buffs football program, and he's going to do it for the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. So now I don't know if necessarily he's going to immediately come out of 1,000 yards next year, but the Jaguars are stacked at receiver, though. Like, not a lot of people realize that. I mean, you talk about DJ Chark, you talk about plethora of weapons for Joe Burrow coming in. I'm excited, and I think that they're going to be a tough team to kind of go along with next year in terms of trying to guard them, because they are defensively, that is, because they're a tough outing when it comes to their receivers. Also, James Robinson running the football pretty solid, had over 1,000 yards this year and 7 touchdowns. But Laviska Shenault, Keelan Cole, DJ Chark, Chris Conley, like, just top to bottom, they are stacked at wide receiver. Even though Tyler Eifert, I'm not sure if I'd bring him back, but I think he's going to be a great player. Laviska Shenault, that is Tyler Eifert, is a good player, but again, I think this just how stacked that the Jaguars are, and how young and promising that the future is for a guy like Laviska Shenault. I think it's definitely a lot of good things to come, especially with a good quarterback like Trevor Lawrence coming in. So let me know what you guys think, though. I definitely think it should be something interesting regarding Laviska Shenault. I think he's going to be a very promising player moving forward. All I had for episode 68. I definitely appreciate you guys for coming along. For those of you that watch us on YouTube, once again, please remember to like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. It helps people find the show. You guys can also listen to our latest episodes on iTunes. We always upload them as fast as possible there. So once again, like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. Helps people find the show. I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great rest of your day.